Rubber. It is used in over 5,000 types of products all over the world. And while there are now synthetic alternatives for some of these, others must be made from natural latex. Most of the rubber from Indonesia ends up in tyres for cars, trucks, bikes, buses, and aeroplanes. Yet, it is produced in a green world far away from the bustle of cities and airports. Indonesia has been a major producer of natural latex since rubber trees were introduced from Brazil early in the 20th century. Most Indonesian rubber is grown by smallholders, particularly in Sumatra and Kalimantan. These islands are also famous for their high biodiversity. Traditionally, these trees were not grown in monoculture plantations, but as part of systems known to outsiders as traditional rubber agroforests. These agroforests were adapted from shifting cultivation systems, creating more permanent plots on land cleared of natural forest, burned, then sown with upland rice. The seedlings of rubber were then planted and left for several years. While these rubber trees grew to maturity, the farmers did not clean weed them. Instead, they retained many of the other plants that germinated spontaneously between the rubber trees. Other species with known uses were also planted to enrich the value of the gardens to the community. Thus, the systems grew to provide many resources, but appear rather like secondary forests, leading to their popular name, jungle rubber.
Di dalam karet tua atau kebun tua ini terdapat juga ini pohon-pohon yang bisa dimakan buahnya atau dijual, bisa mendapatkan hasil merupakan uang. Ini ada mentawa, ada cempeda, ada pingan, ada peluntan, ada tekawai, tampuy, dan rambutan sebagainya.
As deforestation sweeps across the outer islands of Indonesia, there is widespread concern that the greater portion of their rich biodiversity will be lost forever. With the area under forest cover already greatly reduced, the importance of other areas with semi-forest conditions, such as the jungle rubber, has increased. In order to approach the landscape realistically and recognise the livelihood needs of local people, conservationists are increasingly interested in the role of these agroforest habitats in preserving part of the local biodiversity. In reality, no type of agriculture can replace the biological treasure house that is the lowland rainforest of Indonesia. However, of the economically productive systems available, jungle rubber seems to be one of the best alternatives to conserve biodiversity in real landscapes. In Western Sumatra, studies of birds in various agroforestry systems found the traditional rubber gardens to be missing many of the species that live in natural forests, but still a reasonable compromise between forest and intensive agriculture. The species that fared well in the jungle rubber are those typical of forest gaps and include small birds that eat fruit, those that glean insects from leaves, and those that eat nectar. Amongst the factors that have emerged as important in determining the habitat quality are the height of the trees, the diversity in foliage architecture, and number of vegetation species present. All of these affect the ability of birds to find suitable food and nesting sites. The story seems similar for mammals. Another study in Jambi province in Sumatra found 31 species of mammals in rubber agroforests, compared with 85 species in the nearby Kerinci Sebelat National Park. Thus, while many sensitive species are missing from the agroforest, this still compares well with the 3 species of mammal found in oil palm and 2 species found in monoculture rubber plantation. For some animals, including 5 species of primate, their nesting and food requirements seem to be satisfied within the rubber agroforest area. Some others, such as the tapir and the forest dog, may feed in the agroforest but require natural forest for breeding. In some locations, such as in West Kalimantan, the relationships between biodiversity, forest and jungle rubber systems are not well known. Further research is needed to investigate the role that the agroforests may play in connecting the core forest habitats. For example, in Jambi province, it seems that the distribution of old rubber agroforests along the river networks may make them effective corridors. However, the complexity of biological interactions that occur in landscape mosaics require more study to evaluate the real importance of these rubber agroforestry networks to local species. While jungle rubber may be acting as a safety net for at least some forest-adapted organisms, this does not put rice on the tables of local farmers. Due largely to economic pressures, the traditional rubber agroforestry systems in many parts of Sumatra and Kalimantan are now under threat. Their lower production of latex per hectare makes the systems less profitable than monoculture plantations. As the price of rubber continues to rise, there is a strong temptation for farmers to intensify systems to become monocultures. Many other jungle rubber gardens are being converted to oil palm plantations. Clearance of the agroforests for coal mining is another threat. These more intensive agricultural options offer farmers high incomes in the medium term. What they do not provide are the more diverse and thus safer sources of income, as well as the many directly useful products found in the mixed traditional systems. In addition, the floristically and structurally simple rubber and oil palm monocultures are relatively poor in biodiversity. The World Agroforestry Centre, also known as ICRAF, is working in Jambi province as well as in Sanggau district in West Kalimantan to better understand the relationships between local people, their rubber gardens and biodiversity, and find solutions to the existing problems. We are exploring ways for smallholder farmers to receive enough benefit from their traditional systems that the temptation to convert to more industrial-style monocultures is reduced. This is an urgent yet delicate challenge. If there is no action soon, the mature rubber systems and the associated habitat and biodiversity they harbour will be lost. We believe that the way forward requires the innovation and commitment of many stakeholders to cooperate in managing the landscape for both now and the future. The involvement of farmers, government, non-government organisations, research institutions and private businesses are all needed to make plans for managing these landscapes for the long term. As part of the Rewarding Upland Poor for the Environmental Services They Provide program, known as RUPES for short, we are investigating the possibility that incentives can be directly linked to biodiversity protection. We hope that in this way, the high value of biodiversity that is perceived by the outside world may be reflected in local management decisions. Reward systems may take diverse forms. They may be provided in exchange for water quality, the fixing of carbon, or for biodiversity. The type of reward and mechanism of transfer must be carefully considered in the context of the local situation.
There are different options. One obviously being a direct cash reward, but that's not the approach we would like to follow because it doesn't seem to have a long-term sustainability in that. What we are moving towards is by recognition of the contribution of the jungle rubber farmers to the conservation, and also looking at possibilities of producing sort of special products from jungle rubber which have specific markets, eco-labeling those products. We are organizing trainings for farmers to produce those material, and also exploring options for special markets for products from jungle rubber other than latex.
Rupanya banyak daun.
However, setting up successful reward mechanisms is more easily said than done.
Dapat
Biodiversity is difficult to measure and value, and even more difficult to link to the actions of individual smallholders. Furthermore, as the land in question is privately owned, there are many stakeholders involved, with various and sometimes undeclared interests. The establishment of a successful reward mechanism requires understanding of farmers' reasons for the decisions they make.
Currently, we're facing this tremendous rapid increase in price of rubber. We realize that the interest in rubber production has gone up significantly. Now that has a negative effect on conservation interest. And that's a big threat we realize in Bungo and rest of Indonesia and the world, I suppose. Other than that, probably the being clear about the reward and the reward mechanism, it's urgent required if we want to keep the momentum of people's interest in preserving sort of habitat and biodiversity in jungle rubber.
The challenges in linking reward mechanisms to biodiversity are not new ones, but require creative thinking regarding the direct benefits that local people might derive from more forest-like systems. It is necessary to provide farmers with sufficient reason to maintain the established jungle rubber, whilst enhancing their income and future generations' choices in managing the land. Perhaps also, greater outside recognition of the uniqueness and importance of the jungle rubber systems increases local people's appreciation of their own agroforests. This is the most sustainable incentive of all.
We all know the species richness is very high in jungle rubber. For a reward mechanism to function, we ought to have a clear monitoring system. We're in the process of developing criteria and indicators, and also ways in which local people can monitor the richness of diversity in their system. Well, it's very important for a joint sort of concerted effort in conservation efforts. There are different stakeholders involved. ICRAF has been working in the region for over a decade. We have key partners like WARSI, a local NGO. We have Yayasan Gita Buana, who have been involved in ground level, grassroots level development work. We have the community organizations. We have the government. We need to work together if we are to achieve a common goal of conserving biodiversity and habitat in jungle rubber.
Traditional rubber agroforests offer a promising option for maintaining some of Indonesia's biodiversity into the 21st century. Yet the complexity of natural resource management means that this story does not have a neat ending. It is ongoing. The threats to forest and semi-forest land covers are increasing. Further research, coupled with urgent action, is needed, and new partnerships must be forged to creatively address the challenges of maintaining some of the world's richest biodiversity in landscapes that many people also call home.